Since 1999, at least 38 plant species have been recognized as imperiled in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area by the state of California. GGNRA, or Goga, is an urban park spanning 3 counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. These 38 imperiled plants have been listed as rare and endangered, and are afforded full protection of the Endangered Species Act. Imperiled species within Goga include the Mount Tamalpais jewel flower in Marin County, the Presidio manzanita in San Francisco County, and the San Mateo thorn mint in San Mateo County. Within Goga, more than half of these 38 imperiled species are found to inhabit chaparral ecosystems. Around 26% of the vegetation in Goga is a form of chaparral. 20% of the world's total plant species are contained in 5 regions, including chaparral. In addition to this high level of biodiversity, these ecosystems are valuable because they buffer the flow of stormwaters, naturally control erosion, and provide natural beauty. These statistics lead to an important research question. What areas of Goga are the most important to manage for the conservation of imperiled chaparral plants? To explore this question, spatial analysis of known plant locations can be used to create a potential critical habitat model that will enable environmental managers to make better decisions about where to focus time and money in their conservation efforts. This is important because conservation of species and habitat restoration can cost millions of dollars to the state and to taxpayers. The Endangered Species Act defines critical habitat as a specific geographic area that contains features essential for the conservation of a threatened or endangered species. Chaparral is a Mediterranean-type shrubland ecosystem that contains the most extensive vegetation type in the state of California. Much of this vegetation is composed of low-growing evergreen shrubs shaped by 3 abiotic factors: long periods of drought typical of Mediterranean climates, poor soils that are typically shallow, sandy, and rocky, and a natural fire regime that affects revegetation. Soils rich in the mineral serpentinite cover 1% of California's surface. Plant growth in these soils is limited by high heavy metal concentrations and low essential nutrients. Species that are serpentine endemics are able to tolerate the soil. In the last 200 years or so, various human impacts have led to the decline of many plant species that are endemic to California. In Goga, species imperilment is primarily the result of habitat loss due to land development, introduction of non-native species, grazing, and disturbances from human activities such as recreation. The first step in creating the potential critical habitat model is collecting data of observed locations of these imperiled plants. This data, obtained from the online repository Bison, contains locations of plant species that have been cataloged since the late 19th century. This observational data can be used for spatial analysis. Spatial analysis of the point locations obtained from Bison can show patterns in the data. Cluster and outlier analysis shows 2 important groups of plants: serpentine endemics and serpentine indifferent. Serpentine endemics are species with a high serpentine affinity, while serpentine indifferent species have little to no affinity for this type of soil. Serpentine affinity refers to the ability of a plant to tolerate serpentine soils. This variable can be measured on a scale of 1.0 to 6.2 with Safford's serpentine affinity scale. These maps show that clustering occurs around regions with high serpentinite concentrations and close to other types of serpentine vegetation. Z-scores were obtained from the cluster and outlier analysis, which are standard deviations used to measure statistical significance. These z-scores were determined for 3 attributes that are correlated with plant distribution, and these were then used to create a weighted kernel density map. The resulting weighted kernel density map shows various zones with the highest potential as critical habitat regions, called PCH zones. The red zones have the highest value as potential critical habitat regions for imperiled chaparral plants. Each zone can be characterized according to various attributes, including number of imperiled species contained within it and mean serpentine affinity. Environmental managers can use this model to identify PCH zones near serpentine soils. This map shows the regions of highest average serpentine affinity where an imperiled serpentine endemic may be most successful. Managers interested in focusing on an individual species can use this model. This map shows the best PCH zones to target for the conservation of the San Francisco wallflower. This model can also provide information about other land and water features that might influence choice of a PCH zone for conservation. If you recall from the previous map, zones E and G were both the best choices as PCH for the San Francisco wallflower. However, from this map, Zone E is not a good choice because around 75% of it contains impervious surface due to development. To summarize all of this, a PCHM can be constructed with known plant locations and measurements of any variable of interest. A lot of information can be determined from this PCHM, including areas with a high concentration of serpentinite, habitat ranges for a single or multiple species, and identification of other land and water features which might affect conservation. Thanks to the USF Geospatial Analysis Lab team, as well as these other organizations listed below.